Imagine being 11 years old.
Right.
A tragic twist of fate suddenly hits, and your entire society collectively decides that, well, your life is effectively over. You are written off as a burden.
Just completely discarded by the system.
Exactly. Then, instead of accepting that fate, you decide to completely rewrite the script yourself, breaking almost every unwritten rule of your culture along the way.
It's quite the journey.
It really is, and that is exactly the journey we are unpacking today. But before we get into the mechanics of how she actually pulls this off, I just want to pause and talk directly to you, sitting right there listening to us.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here.
We really do. If you appreciate the deep dives we do here for the Simplified Summary channel, please take a second to subscribe. Hit that like button on the video and drop a comment with your thoughts as we go. Treating you like the third person in this room is what makes this show work, and your support is honestly the only way we can keep unearthing these incredible narratives.
It really does fuel the whole operation.
It does.
And the narrative we have on the table today is a foundational piece of literature. We're looking at Munshi Premchand's classic collection, Mansarovar Part 1, specifically the story titled Subhagi.
Subhagi.
Right. Now, on the surface, this presents as a rural, early 20th century Indian village tale. But if you look closely at the text, Premchand is actually detailing a highly calculated, systematic dismantling of an entire patriarchal economic structure.
By a single young girl.
By a single young girl.
Which is what makes it such a compelling read even today.
Okay.
So let's get a lay of the land here. We start with a farmer named Tulsi Mahto and his wife, Lakshmi.
Okay.
And they have 2 children who could not be more different from each other.
Polar opposites.
Right. The son, Ramu, is described in the source text with the phrase Kathka Ulu,
Kathka-u, yeah.
which literally means a block of wood. But in practice, it means he's incredibly dense and completely averse to labor. I mean, think of the worst, most entitled roommate you've ever had who, refuses to do the dishes but somehow expects a 5-course meal every single night.
That is Ramu in a nutshell.
That is Ramu.
Which presents a very serious problem in an agrarian society.
How so?
Well, a family's survival depends on shared physical labor, right? And the son is culturally designated as the parent's ultimate retirement plan. So if your son is a block of wood...
And your future is looking incredibly precarious.
Exactly. Your safety net just doesn't exist.
Enter the 11-year-old daughter, Subhagi.
The complete opposite of Ramu.
She really is. She is essentially holding the household together. She manages the chores, she goes out to the fields to handle the heavy farming, and she's just incredibly sharp. But Premchand includes this fascinating detail about her mother, Lakshmi.
The scolding detail.
Yes, Lakshmi actively scolds Subhagi. And not out of malice, but because she's terrified of the evil eye. She genuinely thinks if the gods notice how perfect her daughter is, they'll strike her down.
It's a very specific type of maternal anxiety for that time. In a high mortality era, projecting harshness to mask your affection was actually a common superstitious defense mechanism.
Wow, so you diminish your child's shine in public so fate ignores them.
Exactly. But the profound irony here is that Lakshmi's superstition doesn't prevent tragedy. The tragedy just takes a different form.
Right, because the twist hits early in the story. At just 11 years old, Subhagi becomes a widow.
And we really need to look at the cold mechanics of widowhood in this specific era and setting.
It wasn't just a sad situation.
Not at all. An 11-year-old widow was an economic liability and a social pariah. Culturally, she was viewed as an ominous presence. There was literally no path forward for her that didn't involve being entirely dependent on the grudging charity of male relatives.
And when you read her immediate reaction in the text, it's just heartbreaking because she doesn't even grasp the social doom hanging over her head yet.
She's just a kid.
Exactly.
Dead.
The house is plunging into mourning. Her parents are weeping for her ruined future. And Subhagi's first instinct is just to comfort her mother. She innocently wishes she had the money to buy them nice things to stop them from crying.
That instinct is so crucial because it sets the baseline for her entire character.
Empathy over self-pity.
Right. And as she matures and the harsh reality of her status really sets in, society naturally pressures her father, Tulsi, to remarry her.
Just to pass her off.
It's the standard move to offload the perceived burden, but Subhagi refuses.
Flat out refuses.
She takes a vow to serve her parents for the rest of their lives and explicitly states she will never rely on anyone else.
So she doesn't just reject a second marriage. She rejects the entire premise that she needs a man to validate her existence or secure her future.
Precisely. Premchand uses her refusal to subvert the dominant, helpless widow trope of the time. She asserts total agency over her own labor and her own body, which, in that environment, is an incredibly radical stance for a teenager to take.
And that stance inevitably causes major friction at home, leading to the fracture of the family.
Ramu's marriage.
Yes, Ramu gets married, and his new wife is a force of nature in all the wrong ways. The text describes her as being 2 fingers taller than Ramu, highly dominant, and completely allergic to hard work.
A terrible combination for that household.
She takes one look at Subhagi, who was out there grinding grain, sweeping the entire compound and working the fields, and she instantly despises her.
Well, it's basic human nature playing out in a confined space. Subhagi's relentless competence is a mirror that just highlights the new daughter-in-law's inadequacies.
Instead of stepping up to match Subhagi's work ethic,
Ramu's wife decides to eliminate the comparison altogether.
she starts whispering in Ramu's ear. Meanwhile, Subhagi is doing everything she can to keep her parents comfortable. She's massaging her mother's head after long days, preparing her father's chalam, his pipe.
Pure devotion.
But Ramu sees this devotion and spins it into a cynical narrative. He claims Subhagi is only acting like a saint because she's living off his future inheritance.
Just projecting his own greed.
Exactly. So he demands that the families separate and divide the property immediately.
And dividing a household while the patriarch is still alive is a massive public humiliation.
It's a huge deal.
It signals to the entire village that the father has lost control of his family and that the son prioritizes assets over filial duty.
Knowing the shame this will cause, Subhagi offers to fall on her sword. She tells Tulsi to let her leave the house so he and Lakshmi don't have to suffer a broken home.
But Tulsi Mahto does something that completely defies the patriarchal playbook.
He rejects his son,
He tells Ramu he never wants to see his face again, and he chooses to keep Subhagi.
which is massive.
We cannot overstate the structural earthquake of that decision. Tulsi is essentially throwing away his culturally mandated safety net.
By choosing a widowed daughter over a male heir.
Yes. He is declaring that virtue and actual labor hold more value than biological gender. It's a complete inversion of village politics.
It really is. And Subhagi responds by doubling down on her labor. With Ramu gone, she works even harder, saves her own money, and buys a buffalo for her parents.
I want to pause on the buffalo because it's not just a nice gift.
It's an investment.
Exactly. In an agrarian economy, a milk-producing buffalo is a high-yield asset. It provides daily nutrition, surplus goods to trade, and significant social status.
So she essentially buys them financial independence.
By purchasing that buffalo, Subhagi single-handedly builds a pension plan for her parents. She assumes the financial role of the eldest son without ever asking for the title.
But her ability to provide that stability is tested by an absolute avalanche of grief.
The turning point of the story.
Tulsi Mahto falls severely ill with a fever that just won't break. As he deteriorates, Subhagi puts her pride aside and goes to Ramu, begging him to come see their dying father.
And Ramu's response is chilling.
He makes vague excuses.
He does, and his wife actively shuts the conversation down, calling Subhagi's desperation women's manipulation. It is a total abdication of his duty as a son, both emotionally and culturally.
Left with no family support, Subhagi turns to the village elder Sajan Singh.
A key figure here.
He's a wealthy, highly respected figure. On his deathbed, Tulsi formally entrusts Subhagi to Sajan Singh's care, knowing the predators in the village will circle a young woman with no male guardian. Shortly after, Tulsi passes away.
Which triggers a profound cultural crisis.
For the funeral,
Right. The last rites, the funeral rituals, are strictly the domain of the son. The son lighting the pyre is considered essential for the father's spiritual salvation.
and Ramu knows this.
He is fully aware of his leverage, and he refuses to participate out of pure spite.
So Lakshmi, the grieving widow, performs the rites herself. But Subhagi isn't content to just let Ramu win the optics war.
No, she is not.
She orchestrates what I can only describe as a weaponized funeral feast. She goes to Sajan Singh and borrows an astronomical sum of money, roughly 300 rupees.
To put 300 rupees into perspective for that era,
It's a fortune, right?
it is a staggering amount of debt to take on. You were talking about years of equivalent labor wages.
I'm curious about Sajan Singh's angle here, actually. Why does a shrewd, wealthy village elder lend a fortune to a young widow with zero collateral?
Well, it tells us two things. First, Sajan Singh recognizes Subhagi's exceptional character. He views her integrity as ironclad collateral.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second, it shows he understands village politics just as well as she does. He knows she isn't just throwing a party. She is mounting a public relations campaign against her brother.
Exactly. She uses that 300 rupees to host a 13th-day feast that feeds not just her neighbors, but 8 surrounding villages.
It's an absolute flex.
A massive flex. She publicly honors her father on a scale Ramu could never afford, effectively isolating Ramu socially and proving that a devoted daughter can outperform an entitled son on every conceivable metric.
It's brilliant psychological warfare. She takes the shame Ramu tried to inflict on their family through his absence and reflects it onto him with a spotlight.
But the emotional toll of all this is devastating. Just 15 days after hosting this massive event, Lakshmi's health collapses from the grief, and she lies dying.
A double tragedy.
And in her final moments, she makes her position unequivocally clear. When Ramu finally shows up, she refuses to let him anywhere near her.
She won't even let him touch her feet.
Right. She denies him the right to touch her feet for a final blessing. Instead, she pulls Subhagi close and tells her that her only wish is to be reborn as Subhagi's mother in the next life.
It's a total spiritual disinheritance of the son. But what Subhagi does next shatters the absolute bedrock of their religious and cultural traditions.
Subhagi performs her mother's last rites herself. She lights the funeral pyre.
We have to linger on this because it is the ideological climax of Premchand's story. Lighting the pyre is not a chore. It is a sacred, gender-locked ritual.
Reserved strictly for sons.
Yes. By taking the torch, an unmarried, widowed woman is committing an act of social heresy. She is publicly declaring that salvation is achieved through the merit of the child's devotion, not the child's gender.
She bypasses the patriarchy entirely to secure her mother's peace.
It's incredibly powerful.
So the dust settles, the rites are complete, and Subhagi is now entirely alone in the world. And she is staring down a mountain of debt. She owes Sajjan Singh 500 rupees in total, 300 for her father's feast, and another 200 she spent on her mother's rites.
For a single woman operating an agrarian homestead by herself, 500 rupees isn't just a debt, it's a life sentence.
Yeah, how do you even begin to pay that back?
The logical expected move would be to abscond in the night, or fall at Sajjan Singh's feet and beg for forgiveness, or just succumb to indentured servitude.
But Subhagi does none of those things. She sets a brutal, uncompromising schedule to pay back every single coin. The source text gets into the granular details of her physical labor, and it is exhausting just to read.
It really is.
During the day, she is out working the fields under the punishing sun. Then, at night, when the rest of the village is asleep, she operates a heavy stone chakki to grind grain. She grinds 4 piseries of flour every single night.
Let's quantify that for a second. A piseri is a traditional weight measure. 4 of them equals roughly 20 kilograms or 45 pounds of grain.
Every single night.
Hand cranking a stone wheel to grind 45 pounds of flour after a full day of agricultural labor requires a level of physical endurance and mental discipline that borders on the superhuman.
And she converts that superhuman effort into a flawless repayment schedule. On the 30th of every single month, without fail, she walks up to Sajjan Singh and hands him exactly 15 rupees. Month after month, year after year.
Notice how the societal perception of her shifts dramatically during this period, too.
Right, the village is watching all this.
The village that once viewed her as a cursed omen now watches her grind out a living with absolute integrity. Her reputation doesn't just recover, it skyrockets.
Despite living in grinding poverty, she suddenly becomes the most eligible woman in the region. Respected families start flooding her with marriage proposals.
They see her work ethic and realize she is an invaluable asset.
But she rejects every single offer. She just repeats one phrase. She says, "The time hasn't come." She refuses to let anything distract her from clearing her name and her debt.
It takes 3 grueling years.
3 years of relentless labor, but she finally scrapes together the final installment. She walks to Sajjan Singh's house to hand over the last few coins to close out the 500 rupee debt. But as the transaction finishes, Sajjan Singh stops her.
And makes a very unexpected request.
He makes a request that completely shifts the dynamic of their relationship.
Sajjan Singh, the wealthiest, most traditional elder in the village, looks at this young woman whose hands are calloused from 3 years of grinding flour, and he asks her to marry his own son.
His own son.
He wants her as his daughter-in-law.
It's an incredible moment, especially considering the caste and social rules he is actively choosing to ignore to make that happen.
And he addresses that directly in the text. He explicitly states that he no longer cares about societal norms regarding widows or status. Subhagi's character has obliterated those barriers for him.
He sees her true value.
He recognizes that her spirit and integrity are worth infinitely more than any traditional dowry. Sajjan Singh elevates her, referring to her as an avatar of Bhagwati, a manifestation of the Divine Mother.
Wow.
And she achieves this reverence not through divine intervention and not through a wealthy man rescuing her from debt, but purely through her own ferocious independence and unshakable virtue.
Bringing this deep dive back to you, the listener. Why does a story written a century ago by Munshi Premchand hold up so well today?
It's surprisingly modern.
It is. Whether you are navigating a complex corporate hierarchy, dealing with impossible family dynamics, or simply trying to carve out your own identity, Subhagi's methodology is incredibly relevant. She proves that your value isn't determined by the labels your society slaps on you or the unfair deficits you start with.
Not at all.
Your worth is forged entirely by your actions, your grit, and your refusal to compromise your principles. Subhagi didn't just survive the terrible script written for her. She outworked it and forced the world to respect her on her own terms.
That is the triumphant reading of the story, absolutely. But I'd actually leave you with a slightly more provocative thought to chew on.
Oh, lay it on us.
Think about Subhagi's ultimate reward at the end of this grueling 3-year saga. After proving she doesn't need a man to survive, after single-handedly dismantling the patriarchal idea that a son is required for financial or spiritual salvation, her grand prize is
Marriage proposal.
a marriage proposal to the wealthy elder's son. Does this ending, even though presented as a triumph, inadvertently reinforce the era's limitation that a woman's highest possible achievement is still just a good marriage?
Oh, that's interesting.
Does she truly escape the system, or does she just earn a premium spot within it? It's a tension in the text worth thinking critically about.
That is a fascinating angle and exactly the kind of nuance we love getting into here. It completely changes how you look at the finale.
It leaves you with some questions.
It definitely does. And that brings us to the close of our deep dive into Subhagi. Thank you for sitting with us and exploring the layers of this incredible story. Before we go, a quick reminder, please subscribe to the Simplified Summary channel, hit the like button, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to know where you land on that final question. Did she beat the system or just join it?
Let us know what you think.
Keep questioning the narratives around you, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.